pretty. And Molly's walking behind me, and then she says, very casually, there's a bear. No, it was more like this, there's a bear. And I'm just like, what does that even mean? She said, there's a bear. And then suddenly I realized, oh, I think she's saying, like, she sees that there is a bear. Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Molly.
And you're listening to the Two Sisters on Adventures podcast.
Today is the beginning of day 4.
Day 4!
On the Tahoe Rim Trail. And we had a pretty big day ahead of us.
I feel like we were actually able to get out of our tent in a pretty timely manner.
Well, because I think we knew that so rain was in the forecast that night. We had the opportunity to stay in Tahoe City, so we really didn't prefer to get a super wet tent if not
possible.
2 rainfly zippers that were not functioning. So we knew we had about a 20-mile day to get to Tahoe City. Fortunately, a decent amount of downhill versus uphill, but I had been looking at reviews for different hotels in Tahoe City the night before.
Because again, we have cell phone service.
Gosh, right? Yeah, the luxury.
As we listen to the traffic drive by all night long.
I don't think we actually could hear traffic.
I could hear traffic.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay. There. Now we know who needs
go
to get their ears checked.
And we will. Well, I have terrible hearing.
Okay. Well, and I have even more
terribler
hearing.
I just want to make this statement right now. As I climbed out of my tent that morning, I definitely saw the body of the spider.
Oh,
I did.
Interesting.
And I stepped on it.
Take that, spider.
Yeah.
So I had looked up different hotels, and you know how it is when you try to find a place to stay, and you are like, oh, some good reviews, and then someone's like, definitely black mold, or like,
47 cockroaches.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, well, now I feel like I have to look for a different hotel. But I found this one place it's America's Best Value Inn, which is definitely a national chain.
Yeah.
But a couple people had mentioned that they were thru hikers and that they had a good experience there, and someone said there was a thru hiker discount. So right off the bat, then in the morning, I called them up, and there was this super nice gal who answered the phone, and she said they didn't have a hiker discount, but told me about a certain discount she could give me, and they had room available. And so I don't think I reserved a room, but she said she could hold one for me. So we knew that there was a room available for us, and I think that kind of probably motivated us to get out of there a little earlier.
I was so motivated that morning because my ankle was hurting, and I did in the back of my mind think, wow, how am I going to make it 20 plus miles today? But I also thought, I'm going to sit in a hot tub. That could only be good for my ankle. I'm going to shower. I'm going to sleep in a bed. I'm going to eat food.
Yeah.
So I feel like my mindset was just like, let's get out of here.
So not only were we campground girls, we turned into hotel girls.
Yeah, apparently.
It's this whole transformation, the Tahoe Rim Trail.
Yeah.
So we actually hit the trail, I think, before 9 a.m., which was good for us on this trip.
Yep.
And so I think we had maybe 4 miles of walking before we'd get to our first water source. And it was interesting because this section of the trail, I think we met a few day hikers, maybe a biker or two.
Yeah, there was some people.
But we met about 15 Forest Service personnel.
Yeah.
They are working in that forest.
They are.
Wow.
It was honestly kind of funny because you woke up in the morning, and maybe Molly didn't hear this.
No,
but
I heard it.
Not only could I hear the road traffic, which I could definitely hear, there was also a beep, beep, beep.
And I thought it was a garbage truck
Yeah,
at
I
first.
was just confused at what's happening because there was a paved road next to us that you could ride your bike on. And it was funny because you come through the forest and there was a sign that said, beware of falling objects. And someone had crossed out objects and written trees.
Yes.
That's
and
official.
So here, the Forest Service, they are
really trying to manage the Lake Tahoe forests, I think, because they had such a big fire in 2021, I want to say.
On the south side.
So they're definitely trying to actively remove diseased trees and all that kind of stuff. And they're kind of rebuilding forest roads as well. But it was just so weird to walk through. Again, right? It's kind of like the urban trail where
now we're in a construction zone,
Yeah.
but it's, forest management.
Yeah.
And there was, at one point, we were about a mile from our water source, and there's this guy in a backhoe, and they make all these attachments.
Yeah,
for
I've never
backhoes
seen these in my
that
life.
I've never seen. They have the chainsaw attachment.
Yeah, which was incredible to see.
The wood chipper attachment. This guy had the wood chipper attachment, and he was
yeah,
just taking all these young trees out that were
Yeah.
just
Very
cluttered
close
together
yeah.
and by the trail. And Carrie and I are like, well, we definitely have to just
Yeah.
stand at a distance until
Yeah.
he sees us. I'm like waving my arm, and he's just like,
It's like I really I don't think that my parents knew to worry about me being wood chippered to death
by accident.
It's like, oh, bears, all that
Yeah,
other stuff.
yeah.
Oh, what if that happens to you?
Spiders.
No, they were hit by a chainsaw that was being swung by a backhoe.
That's funny.
It was just one of those things that's so weird.
So we stood there for a while, and
Yeah.
then the guy like saw us, gave us a thumbs up, and we could walk through there.
Yeah.
But wow, it smelled really good.
It did. It smelled amazing.
Like fresh pine.
Yeah, it smelled
like
very
we were
piney.
getting into someone's car with the nice little tree. And
I actually had never found those little evergreen tree hangers that go in cars to be very accurate. But that is crazy accurate to how they smell, I guess, when they are being wood chippered fresh in front of you.
we did get a little
That's
bit of a
crazy.
kick the rest of the day. At like if there was a dull moment, we could
Yeah.
start
Yeah, 'cause it's
just
like-
making like wood chipper sounds,
Mhm.
and it kind of brought up the morale of the
Yeah,
group.
well, I don't know. So that was a nice little weird thing to happen
yeah,
in the
that
morning.
was like the forest management section of the trail.
Yeah, for real though. So then
I did write though in my journal that we walked through some beautiful, healthy, well-managed forests.
Yeah.
There were many miles
Yeah.
where it was like very
Well, I
large,
think-
healthy trees.
Yeah.
And minimal, dead material,
Yeah.
and it was a very pleasant forest
Yeah.
to walk through.
It just
except
weird
for
to
if
be there
it was really
for
loud
the part
and
where
the
they're
wood chipping
doing
that.
The next water source was Watson Lake, which when I'd read about it, I was kind of back and forth on how I felt about it because people were commenting that there was a campground nearby with no toilet, and so it was a really questionable water source. But then I read more, and apparently the Tahoe Rim Trail Association, I believe, put in toilets there, which I thought was really awesome of them. They do a
Yeah.
lot of good work.
And before we got to Watson Lake, we had bypassed one water source, which was like kind of a
Well,
trickle
yeah.
across
Mhm.
the trail.
Yeah.
Which we only needed like a liter of water
Yeah.
at the time, and it looked like it would take forever, and we'd have to fill at Watson Lake anyways.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
decided to keep walking and
Mhm.
get to Watson.
So we kind of pushed on to Watson Lake, and yeah, I feel like that forest was very pretty.
Yeah.
The ground was soft, which was nice, and when we got to Watson Lake, it was actually a very pretty lake. You know,
Yeah.
just kind of one of those quiet mountain lakes, and there were quite a few bikers heading out, and I always wondered how do they go up those huge rocks, and so it was kind of funny to watch a bunch of them kind of walk their bikes around. So they looked like hikers too, I guess. But yeah, we filled up there, and I will say that was. I'm not a lake water person. It did not taste very good. Did you have an opinion on that?
I thought it was okay because it was cold.
Yeah, I was drinking it, I was like, poison.
And I feel like, was there any other spots we could refill from there to
No.
Tahoe City?
Yeah, that was our
So
only
that was
refill,
a
which was
nice-
another thing that factored into our wanting to go to Tahoe City.
Yeah, because we were going to have 13 miles, I think, of hiking
Yeah.
to get to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the one saving grace was it was cool enough that the water was,
that was
cold.
super nice.
But yeah, I mean, you can't beat a spring
Nope,
or
you really can't.
melts like snow melt.
Mhm.
So a lake is never going to be number
Yeah.
one on my priority.
But I was appreciative to have water because, I mean, I guess what am I complaining about? Oh, the water didn't taste good after there's just so many miles of no water.
Exactly.
So we kept on walking, and I think that part of
we
that
thought
day-
about having a little longer rest at the
yeah.
lake.
Oh, yeah, that was the plan.
And then there are trees around the lake, but it was, it's the end of September. It's almost October, so it was quite chilly. And we were like, like shivering.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd walk a little further and then take a longer rest when we could find a spot, hopefully
Where
with
we
some
didn't
sun.
have to freeze.
Yeah.
This morning we were walking on a ton of forest trails, and actually I would say former roads. Like you could tell it had formerly been a road, and now the edges have been reclaimed and it's a trail, but it's all kind of gravel. And the tough-ish part about that was there was really no views because there was a ton of forest, which is nice. I like to be in forests. But it was kind of like a lot of walking on a gravel road with no views, and bikes pass you and they're going fast and you're going human speed. And so I think that I just wrote in my journal that it felt that morning like a super monotonous day of walking.
Yeah, and I think once again, just the fact that we had built an itinerary with limited time where we had to keep pushing miles. I mean, I don't know if it would have been any better if we would have broken it up into 2 days. But
I don't know.
I think it's just the perspective of when you're walking and you're like, okay, when I get to 10 miles, I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
And when I get to 15, now I'm 75%. It's just like you got to just walk. And sometimes when you have terrain that breaks it up just a little bit more, maybe it feels a little less monotonous. But it did feel monotonous. So we knew we probably wouldn't get, we did do like 1 or 2 switchbacks that had nice views of Lake Tahoe and a couple campsites that could be pretty baller.
Yeah.
And then we finally decided, like, let's stop and have lunch. So it was right by this trailhead for people to, like, a mountain bike connector. And so we just found, like, a pretty large open gravel spot, and the sun was out. And so we sat down, and almost immediately this hornet came up, and it just started,
and I, like, had already taken my shoes off, of course.
Yeah, and me too. And this hornet came up, and it just started, like, hovering around my legs. And I think I even wrote in my journal, my nasty legs, because of course they're covered in dust. And so you think, like, okay, it'll like smell me and then fly away. But no, it just kept coming back. And then I think it was trying to eat me. Like, pretty soon it felt like its little mouth was on my leg, and it was like nibbling. And I told Carrie, I don't think that I can just sit here, because this hornet is getting more and more interested in, like, actually eating me, I think.
Yeah, and a piece of the reason we decided to stop there was not a ton of tree cover, so we could get sun. Yeah. And also we could hear the sounds of more forest management up ahead. Yes. So I was kind of thinking, I don't know where we can stop in the next, like, does this go on for 1 mile, 2 mile, 4 miles? I don't want to just say, I'm going to just sit here and have my lunch, and then a tree comes crashing down on me. But we decided, okay, we can make it a little farther. And so we started down the trail, and honestly, those trails felt pretty decent to me. Yeah. But when we got to this area that I think probably was clear, they were clearing for maybe power lines or something. So it was a pretty wide strip, and we could actually watch them working down below, which was interesting. And then we felt pretty safe, because if you're way above it and to the side, they're probably not going to suddenly come back up to where they've already worked and start chopping trees down around you. So we decided that that was actually a good spot to take our rest break.
And we did hear some pretty big booms and crashes as trees fell down. So that was like an interesting diversion for
when trees fall in the forest, you can hear them if you're there, actually.
That is
if someone's around, it does make a sound. So we saw a few more mountain bikers, visited with them. They were all really nice and encouraging and happy for us that we were going to go to Tahoe City. Yeah. And then after lunch, we decided to just get up and keep going, and we did. And it was actually nice in the afternoon. I feel like there was a lot of good views of the lake. There was good views. I don't know, the forest just looked super healthy and mossy and pretty. And even the way that the clouds were kind of in the sky just was really nice. So it was nice, because I needed that pick-me-up for, we had still probably at least 10 or more miles to go.
And that's when we came upon some bike packers.
Yeah.
They were the only 2 bike packers that we met.
I think that's true.
And one of the guys, I don't know, he might have been from Utah. He had bike packed the Colorado Trail the year before. And then his friend was kind of getting, first experience bike packing. Yeah. So it was interesting, because I think that, we felt like the trail was geared towards mountain bikes, and we were like, oh, it'd probably be like really
so easy for the
and fun
bikers
to bike pack it. And I think the bike packers didn't feel it was ideal for them either. Yeah. Because in our conversations, I feel like it was like 2 ships in the night. Like we would say something like, oh, it seems geared towards bikers. And they'd be like, well, this trail is like pretty rough, and there's a lot of rocks. And so
it was funny, because it honestly kind of encouraged me in a way, because I thought, okay, this is actually really hard for everyone. And one of the bikers said, the Tahoe Rim Trail has its own specific set of challenges. And I feel like we just kept saying that, and it felt nice to validate the fact that we've done hard trails, we've done long trails, we've done big days, we've done all of kinds of stuff, but for whatever reason, there is a specific set of challenges on the Tahoe Rim Trail that for each person may be a challenge, even if you're on a bike.
Yeah, and I mean, that resonated with me enough that I wrote it down too.
Yeah.
And we just kept using that phrase, I guess,
Yeah.
as time went on. And I think that's important because you can think about previous experiences and build on them and use them to make decisions and learn and hopefully, you know, have great experiences in the future. But it's also important to just know each trail is different. They come with their own set of challenges. Like this one specifically would be more like the water carries and the type of trail. Where like when we were first looking at it, the overall grade of the Tahoe Rim Trail is pretty
not bad.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
modest.
had it all just maybe it would
and like this 20-mile day, we gained 2,300 feet of gain over it. Like that's not crazy.
No.
Like 5,000 feet would have felt a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
But there are just other challenges that kind of stacked up and you have to work through them. So I guess it's just like a nice reminder that we can always just expect a certain set of challenges when we take on a trail and you have to adapt and be flexible based on what those are. And they're not going to be the same as the trail you did last time.
If you see someone and they're having a real easy, what looks to you like an easy time of it, they are probably dealing with their own difficulties as well. So it was nice to talk to them. They were so friendly and chatty and fun.
Really enjoyed visiting.
And it was nice because I feel like a lot of the time people were really trying to just push miles because it's October or they were day hikers. And so we didn't get to visit with a ton of people, but it was nice to kind of make that connection and feel like it was
this
fun.
day 4 and the day before, we'd seen one person each day that looked like they were doing the whole trail. The day before, the guy, we met him when we were descending towards Brockaway, and he was just like sweating and like huffing, puffing. He was going for it. He had his full like platypus water bag, like an extra 4 or 5 liters. So it's like you don't really want to stop and just like chat with him. And then this day when we were descending, there was a guy who you know looked outfitted for a through hike, and he was pushing uphill too. So we really hadn't chatted really with any other through hikers, but the bike packers were fun to visit with.
Yeah, I had a nice time visiting with them. And then it was also kind of fun because as we headed up that day, there ended up being a really nice spot to sit and take a break. Do you remember that? Where we kind of thought maybe we could see Twin Peaks and the Desolation Wilderness, and we could kind of see that there was granite coming up. Yeah. And there was some really good views coming up. And I think that also felt like, okay, we're going to Tahoe City. And, you know, there's still a lot of questions in our mind because our tent is not working correctly. My foot is not feeling good. And I was planning to get a different pair of shoes in Tahoe City because, honestly, I've worn and loved my Hokas for many years. And I've worn different versions of them and loved them. But I think that they're just maybe not, they don't work for me anymore. And so I had decided, like, okay, because I had a ton of blisters too, which is just weird for me. And the blisters weren't being fixed by my Leukotape strategy like they normally are. It was just, I had so much going on there.
Yeah,
and so I had kind of decided I was going to try a pair of Ultras if they had them in town. And so I think there were so many question marks, but it was also like, okay, up ahead, there's going to be something that's a little bit different and maybe it'll be really fun. So let's just keep going and kind of see what happens.
Carrie and I finished our rest break and we were about 5 miles from Tahoe City at that point, and the clouds were kind of starting to roll in. And I think we could, I don't know if we actually used the service to look at a radar, but you could tell that we still had time to get to Tahoe City, but I think it was supposed to start raining at like 7, so we knew we had to keep moving. So we were just in a rhythm, walking.
Honestly, and let me paint you a picture. I'm just walking. It's a nice trail. The forest is green. Things are pretty. And Molly's walking behind me, and then she says, very casually, "There's a bear." No, it was more like this. "There's a bear." And I'm just like, what does that even mean? She said, "There's a bear." And then suddenly I realized, oh, I think she's saying, like, she sees that there is a bear.
And it's true. And so we're walking along, and it must have been, I don't know, maybe 100 feet or so below the trail is this pretty big black bear.
It was fat.
And it was just looking right at us. And I just, you know, as I walk, I generally am scanning pretty much everywhere. And I'm just doing kind of my visual scan, and there it was. And I wrote in my journal afterwards that I have screamed at like, and less now, I think, than at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it used to be you'd see like this log that looked a little funny, and you'd be like, ah! Or you'd hear a stick crunch and you'd go, ah! But there was no screaming or anything. Like, I felt extremely calm. I just saw the bear, and I let Carrie know.
There's a bear.
There's a bear. And so it definitely saw us, so we still talked to it a little bit. We did our hey bear.
Yeah. And then I started thinking...
Initially, it kind of ran away a little bit, but then it stopped and then just kept staring at us.
Yeah.
And for some reason...
What are we supposed to say? And I thought, well, okay, I can just keep saying, hey, bear, but maybe it's bored of that. Maybe it's heard it before. And so then I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to sing, because what if it's alarmed by my singing or enchanted by it and it wants to come closer? So the only thing I could think of was to say all the lyrics to Cotton Eye Joe repeatedly. It would be like, if it had not been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd be married a long time ago. Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? Cotton Eye Joe. And I just really calmly repeated that until I stopped, I guess.
Yeah, so we just basically did
and let me tell you, the bear did not want to come closer to that.
Yeah, it did not pursue. And then at that point, I think Carrie was like, oh gosh, like, do we have to switch back down there?
Yeah, well, when I saw it, all I could think was, oh shoot, I don't know if we have switchbacks coming up and we're going to have to go through the bear, which means then we have to make a decision about what we're gonna do then.
Yeah.
But yeah, fortunately, we just went around a corner, and you keep looking behind you. And
it's really funny because I had been looking at far out before this time, and there was one area on the trail that someone was like, saw a bear here, and it was like back in July. And I thought it was a little funny, like, well,
yeah,
like, we don't have to
even bother commenting
every animal sighting because we see bears all over the place. But I always wonder if that was the same spot. Like maybe that's where the bear likes
just
to
like
hang
stands
out.
There.
But
he never heard Cotton Eye Joe before though. Maybe.
Yeah. So then we were kind of happy because we would have been camping in that vicinity.
Yeah.
Had we not chosen to push to Tahoe City. So that gave us a little bit something interesting to think about as we finished the last couple miles into the city.
Yeah, so we were able to just finally descend, and honestly, it felt like it took forever to get to the trailhead. But we finally got there, and then it was kind of a pretty short walk into town. I don't think it was even a half mile.
No, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, and we'd seen that there was a pizza place there, so I thought, well, that sounds perfect to me. I don't remember what it's called. It might just be called like Tahoe City Pizza. But honestly,
it was actually called Front Street Pizza
Station.
Pretty close, Carrie.
Exactly what I was thinking it was called. But anyway, we went there, and honestly, the pizza was so good. It's made in a wood-fired grill, I want to say. I don't know.
Oven?
And honestly, yeah, just delicious. 10 out of 10. So we sat
Super
down,
tasty.
had our awesome pizza, washed our hands, used the bathroom, all that good stuff. And then we said, well, let's go find America's Best Value Inn. And we did. We walked down to America's...
Before we did that, though, we took a detour to Save Mart.
Oh, we went to Save Mart first.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot about that. We went to Save Mart first.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we thought about getting our resupply, but also we didn't want to... We hadn't even, like, sat down to plan out everything we needed to buy yet. So we went to Save Mart, and we knew priority number one was that we wanted to sit in a hot tub. So when we got to Save Mart, we're like, well, let's just see, do they sell, like, swimsuits? So we're walking down the first aisle we get to, and oh my gosh, they do sell swimsuits, but they have, like, basically, like, swimming trunks for guys, and then they have
giant
one-piece
flowery one pieces for the ladies.
$29.99.
Yeah, not interested in
and
that.
I was just like, So I'm just standing there, like, looking at this pink, flowery, $30 one piece, like, trying to decide, is it something I want to buy? And
all of a sudden, someone says, oh, hi. And we were like, I don't think I know anyone here. And we turned around, and there was another backpacker. It was the same guy we'd seen our first night when we camped at that campsite. And that was just actually really fun, kind of a serendipitous meeting.
Yeah.
Where we visited with him for a long time. And, I feel like it was just kind of a discouraging trail, right? So he was feeling a little discouraged, and we were feeling a little discouraged, but we were all in Tahoe City, and
he pushed miles to get there because he was going to meet his dad and take like a half-zero day, and his dad had some car trouble. So
I think we all were just like really enlivened by the fact that we saw another hiker there.
Yeah.
So we spent quite a long time just visiting over by the swimsuits, and then finally he said, okay, I got to get my resupply. And we were actually there also to buy a toothbrush because we'd read that you could clean your zippers by using a toothbrush. So we were going to work on that night. So we went and bought our toothbrush. He got his gummy bears, and then we headed to America's Best Value Inn. And it was actually funny because when we tried to check in, they didn't have us on file for anything. Yeah. But luckily, we were able to get a room. We were able to get our discount. And honestly, it was such a clean room. The bed was so comfortable.
I feel like we've stayed in rooms where there's just a scent when you walk in, and
Mhm.
it's like, So I don't know. As soon as I opened the door, I took a deep breath in because I was like, I need to just figure out what this situation is going to be. And there was no smell.
Yeah,
Like,
it was nice.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Is the room a little dated? Yes.
Yep.
Was the bathroom a little dated?
Mhm.
Yes. But did the room, was it clean? 100%.
Yeah, was it comfortable?
Was the bed one of the most comfortable beds
So
ever?
comfortable.
Very, very comfortable.
Yeah.
So we were super pumped just to be in a clean room, and we were going to try to figure out our tent. But first of all, we were off to the hot tub.
Well, no. First of all, we both took showers
Yes,
because we're not gross.
That's correct.
Then we were off to the hot tub.
Exactly.
But it was hilarious because when we were checking in, we saw on the security camera that the hot tub was empty, and we were like, yes.
Yeah.
And as we rounded the corner to the hot tub,
we like hear these tunes, and here it is. The hot tub is just absolutely full to the brim, overflowing with teenage boys. And they've got their Doritos.
Yeah.
They got their music.
I like that you called it tunes. That makes us sound really young. Anyway, and I think we just looked at each other, and in a normal situation, maybe I would have said, okay, I don't need to sit in the bed with, or sit in the hot tub with like 14-year-old boys.
Yeah.
But I was very committed to that hot tub. I'd been thinking about it all day. And so they kindly scooted on over, and we all sat in the hot tub together.
I feel like I was just kind of, they like looked at us like, you're not going to get in here. And I was like, make room for us.
I think you're like, can you guys scoot over a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they did give us one little corner, and when we got in, it was so funny because the water was so high. Like, if you wanted to hold your phone, you had to hold it up like above your head because the water was that deep. So we just kind of like sat there for a little bit with all the teenage boys, and then a couple other people showed up.
Teenage girls.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it at first, none of us were talking, but then they saw my watch tan and they thought maybe I was a runner. So it turned out they were in town for some sort of a 3-mile race or something.
It was like cross-country meet.
Cross-country meet. And honestly, it was very fun to visit with them. They had all these stories of times that they'd seen bears.
Yeah, I was like, well, we saw a bear today.
They're like, well, we see bears every day.
Well, every time I go out to shoot baskets, there's a bear there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
when I had a bear standing outside my room, I couldn't figure out what to do, so I just closed the curtain. And we had a bear on our roof, and it destroyed our shingles. And I was like, okay, guys,
fine. Our bear story isn't that interesting.
You're very cool. And they were talking to, because
nice.
Wherever they all lived, like in the foothills, was, an area of California that got an incredible amount of snow last year. So they were even just talking about like getting stuck in their own houses and like not getting out and their driveways being full of snow. And it was, super interesting to talk to a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, I don't know, I think that 0 days and days in town are just so fun on through hikes because you just roll the dice. Anything can happen, and it's just hilarious to be sitting in a hot tub full of teenagers just like visiting and in the middle of like the most random location. So it was pretty fun, and I think it brightened my spirits a bit.
I think so too. And so honestly, it felt like, okay, it's the end of the day, things are looking good. We both take our showers, and then we thought we'll work on the zippers. And that was where things really did not take a positive turn. So first of all, we thought we were cleaning the broken zipper.
Oh, gosh.
And so we cleaned it really thoroughly, and it zipped all the way, and we were like,
wow,
this is awesome. So then we said, well, we'll work on my zipper just because it had that little issue, and we don't want it to have a problem. And it turned out that was actually the broken zipper, and it did not help it at all.
And the concept is you're trying to use the toothbrush to just clean little bits of dust off of the teeth of the zippers that might cause an issue with how the zippers mate. And so there were like a couple different things you can do. One of them is the toothbrush. Then there's another option to use pliers to try to actually like tighten the zipper pull. And then I don't even know what other options there are after that. I guess sending it to Nemo. So we tried the toothbrushing option and it didn't work. And then, so that's a bummer because then it's like a little bit late.
It's 11 o'clock.
And now you have to go to bed and feel
and we
a little
did not
stressed.
know what was going to happen the next day.
Yeah.
Honestly, we were kind of going through our options. Like if we can't figure out a way to make this work, we're probably not going to get back on trail.
Yeah.
Because there's a little more rain or snow in the forecast. And so if we're not going to get back on trail, I don't really know what we're going to do. And the part that I was most excited to see was the Desolation Wilderness, which is a really beautiful area that was coming up ahead. It was like 2 days away from us. And so it was just one of those things where you kind of go to bed and you go, well, either way tomorrow night I'm going to know what we're doing.
Yeah, but right now we don't.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Two Sisters on Adventures podcast. We hope you enjoyed what you heard today, and if you would like to see any pictures or videos from what we talked about in this episode, it's on our Instagram or Facebook at Two Sisters on Adventures with the number 2. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.